Buon pomeriggio, good afternoon. This is Paolo Mancini speaking. Let me start thanking Alina Mungio-Pippini for this invitation to coordinate this talk devoted to media capture revised from concept to risk measurement. As far as I understand, there is a sort of catchword at the base of Rita Marchetti presentation. Rita Marchetti is associate professor at the University of Perugia. She has been working for a long time on media and religion. She's a specialist, moreover, of new media, internet, and digital theory and digital period. But recently, she has devoted a long time of her research to media and corruption. What is the catchword at the basis of this presentation? Is the title of a very well-known article from Brunette Weber, and I understand that Rita will repeat this catchword in her presentation. The catchword is the free press is a bad news for corruption. This is the connection between news media and corruption. That means if there is a free press, the life of corruption is very hard. In other words, and as it is easy to understand, free press can struggle corruption, can prevent corruption, but also can be a big help to end corruption. This is the departing point for this presentation. I have discussed with Rita this presentation, and I know that her presentation is organized along three main parts. The first part is devoted to theory. That means what we mean, what is meant by risk media capture. What kind of concept has been used and how it has been used. The second part is a methodological part. In this part, Rita will develop the main methodological issues that from which the media capture risk map is constructed. And the third part is obviously devoted to the results. Let me stress one thing, theoretical point at the basis of Rita presentation. That is that the media don't act in a vacuum. The media are part of the society, and the media are always interacting with other parts of society. They are interacting with politics, they are interacting with society in general. This seems a very stupid assumption, but it is not. The presentation of Rita is strong, as you will see, based on this assumption that the media don't act in a vacuum. They interact always with other systems, they affect other systems, but also they are also affected by other systems. This is also why, in a way, the concept of media capture is in some way is an ambiguous concept, and Rita will tell why this phrase, this theory, this word, media capture, can be a little bit ambiguous. But that is for my part, and I'm leaving the floor to Rita for her presentation.
Thank you, Professor Mancini. My presentation, the first part of my presentation is organized around three main questions. First, why analyze media in a research project focused on anti-corruption policies? Second, why to revise media capture concept? And third, what definition of media capture we use in our project? First question, why to study media in a research project focused on anti-corruption policies. When we talk about anti-corruption and policies to fight corruptive phenomena, we are talking about an essential element of our democracies, and there is no democracy without information. As Brunetti and Wede argued, as Mancini already said, free press is bad news for corruption. A free and autonomous press is one of the most effective tools, both for exposing corruption and for preventing it in the first place. As we know, journalism informs citizens, holds power accountable, and creates the public scrutiny that democratic systems required. This is why analyzed media is essential in a research project on anti-corruption policies. However, the press can only perform this role if it is generally free from political interference, from economic dependence, and other form of influences. And when media outlets and news outlets are constrained, influenced, controlled, or captured by powerful political or business actors or other type of actors, their watchdog function, their watchdog role is weakened. This is where the concept of media capture becomes largely used among scholars. And then studying and rethinking media capture is central to anti-corruption research, also in the larger projects such as BridgeGap. Our goal in this project aligns with the European Media Freedom Act, which rightly emphasizes the importance of ensuring that citizens have access to a broad range of reliable news sources and quality journalism that empowers them to make informed choices, including about the state of their democracies. Citizen choices in which they live and the information they receive, and therefore by the media. And the news media can play an active role in the fight against corruption. However, particularistic interest could undermine the universal goal of an informed citizenship. The question we intended to answer in our work is the following. What is the level of risk that the media may fail to produce news that informs citizens and enables their active participation in democratic life? My second question, why we believe that we need to revise media capture concept. There are several reasons why we consider it necessary to rethink the concept of media capture as it has been used in the literature. First, I share my screen.
Let me say something at this point. As you understand, this is the first part of Rita talk, and this part is devoted to theory of media capture risk. Then other parts of the talk will follow.
Yeah. First point, the concept of media capture is a trendy and simplified concept, and nevertheless it is an ambiguous and a slippery concept. The concept of media capture has become very fashionable. More and more scholars use it to describe situations in which the media no longer function according to the classical democratic ideal of journalism, free, fair, independent, that serve the public rather than the power or particularistic interest. The expression capture is powerful because it is simple and evocative. Capture immediately suggests an imbalance of power. There is a captor and there is a victim. Someone, whether a political actor, business actors, a powerful organization, a platform, and so on, control or constrain the media, forcing it to serve private or particularistic interests rather than the public good. The capture is an effective image because it creates a clear moral distinction between the villain and the victim. But this simplicity, we believe that this simplicity is maybe the main problem of the concept. It risks reducing a much more complex reality to a single dramatic image. Media systems are influenced by multiple actors, multiple interests, and structural conditions often contradictory and difficult to isolate. Political pressure, ownership structures, advertising dependence, platform power, and economic fragility of news outlets all interact in ways that cannot always be reduced to a single act of capture, above all in the current complex media ecosystem. And finally, the term also implies another thing. Capture suggests total control, almost without any possibility of negotiation. Second, the concept is historical based.
I'd like to interrupt Rita as much as possible, and I think that this slide is very important. So I shall bring your attention to this slide because it reconstructs the history. It's a sort of historical reconstruction of the concept of media capture, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, we try to reconstruct the literature on media capture. The concept was originally conceived in relation to the media's interactions with politics, business, and other vested interests, as Alina said, particularly during transitions from autocratic to democratic regimes, and in particular in Central and Eastern Europe, to describe political influence on news outlets by governments, political elites, foreign actors, of course, vested interest. And I think that it is important to consider that this concept was formulated before the rise of the internet and social media platforms. During the time, the concept is used to analyze the media in consolidated democracies in other parts of the world, to describe, again, political, economic influence of news outlets by governments, proprietors, advertisers, residents, and so on. And more recently, the platform dependencies of news indices by platform power platforms, and then capture, media environment capture, and so on. And then we think that we need to revise this concept. That reason, because we think that we have to revise the concept of media capture. Let's say it clearly. The concept of media capture, at least in its most rigid interpretation, is based on illusion. The illusion is the idea that completely autonomous journalism can exist. We much consider that media as a system that interacts with and influences other systems, and at the same time, media have always been influenced by other systems, political system, economic system, religious system, and so on. And then this seems to be a simple treat, a more stupid statement. But if we keep this aspect in mind, we avoid approaching our topic naively, assuming complete autonomy of journalists and their supposedly necessary objectivity in the watchdog role of journalism, journalists that monitors and holds political power accountable. Then let's say it clearly, completely autonomous journalism does not exist. Claim otherwise is utopia, because the media do not exist in isolation. They are embedded in broader political, economic, and technological structures. As Benson notes recently, no government, whether left or right, are immune for the temptation to control the media to preserve power. And then
for those who are not from the media studies field, let me stress that Rodney Benson is one of the major media scholars. He teaches at New York. He recently wrote a very important book on the media ownership. I think that this is a book that even the scholars of corruption have to know, because it is important for the influence that the ownership of media can have also on the coverage of corruption.
But we can't find other media scholars that highlighted this point. For example, Gans in 1979 said the news organizations are surrounded by individuals and groups wanting to get their messages into the arena with a maximum of helpful and a minimum of harmful publicity. If necessary, they will use their power to pressure journalists for their purpose.
Finally, Gans is one of the major, is an old person now, and has been one of the major scholars of media studies.
And finally, the fourth point for my second question, we have to revise the media capture concept that we say that is an ambiguous and slippery concept, because we have to consider the complexity of the current media ecosystem. The media scholars in general consider the influence of big tech on traditional media industries, but we believe that we need to focus more on the plurality of information sources. Together with the professional journalists, other information sources are able to reach the citizens, such as alternative sources of information, of course, politicians, citizens, malicious actors, and we have to consider also the interplay between capture and misinformation and disinformation. And today, this is even more evident of the growing influence of digital platforms. Platforms are no longer just intermediaries. They are central actors in the information ecosystem. They shape visibility, attention, advertising revenues, and even the criteria of newsworthiness itself. For an analysis capable of addressing the complexity of contemporary media ecosystem, it is necessary to consider that a growing majority of citizens now access news primarily through social media feeds. And as Reuters, the last digital news report, highlights the emergence of an alternative media ecosystem made up podcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, who frequently achieve broader reach and stronger audience engagement than traditional news organizations, alongside the growing reliance of AI chatbots by citizens as sources of news and information. For these reasons, I believe the concept of media capture needs to be reconsidered, and it's often been used. It's too rigid, too binary, and sometimes too simplistic. We need to revise the concept, consider a broader and more precise definition, a more broader context, and we can understand if an informed citizenry is at risk if we consider together different aspects, different contexts, different dimension. Then what definition of media capture we use in our work? Our proposal for revising the concept of media capture involves a shift in analytical focus from the functioning of news media and the conditions under which they may be captured by political, economic, or other forms of power to the broader conditions under which informed citizenship can effectively develop. We adopt a broad understanding of media capture to describe situations in which particularistic interest override the universal normative function of the media system, thereby undermining its role in informing citizens within democratic regime. From this perspective, media capture should not be understood solely as a condition affecting media institutions, news outlets, but as one that shapes the informational environment in which citizens form opinion and make political choices. Then the central question becomes not only whether journalism operates freely, but whether citizens are actually able to exercise their right to be informed and to participate in deliberative processes under fair and pluralistic conditions. And then, in our point of view, the problem of media capture is closely linked to the risk that citizens may not receive the information they need to make informed choices, including an assessment of the state of the democracies as the European Media Freedom Act highlights. And within this framework, we define media capture as a risk. Media capture is a risk rather than a fixed condition. Our mapping, our media capture risk map, the goal is not to identify capture as a binary outcome, but rather to highlight the conditions, the vulnerabilities of our societies and the conditions under which the risk of media capture, a risk when the uninformed citizenry is at risk, is more likely to emerge.
With this, Rita has finished the first part of her presentation devoted to theory. Now she will move to the second part devoted to methodology.
Yeah. How we measure the risk of media capture or otherwise how we operationalize our theoretical framework into an analytical tool. We adopted a multidimensional approach.
As I said at the beginning of this talk, the main idea at the basis of Rita's presentation is the fact that media don't act in a vacuum. They are part of the society. They are affected by other systems, essentially by political system. And this slide shows how we operationalization the idea that the media don't act in a vacuum.
Yeah, this tripartite approach reflects the assumption that the media capture is not confined to the media sphere, but emerges from systemic imbalances across institutional, political, economic, technological, and cultural domains. And then, therefore, we consider three interconnected systems: media ecosystem, political system, societal context, and each system each dimension is defined through a set of 5 indicators that, taken together, highlight the structural conditions and pressures influencing the risk of media capture, of when an informed citizenry is at risk. For media dimension, that are political influence, pluralism, transparency, professionalism, and information disorder. For political system, political conflict and polarization, political participation, political rights, power distribution, and the level of rational legal authority. We believe that each of these indicators may contribute to define the level of risk in which citizens in EU, for Western Balkan countries and Turkey is at risk. And finally, a last dimension, societal context. We consider the level of democracy, the civil society participation, the level of corruption, the level of education, and the trust in institutions. Then the methodology is based on a multidimensional framework that examines these 3 interconnected dimensions. And our map is based on the collection and organization of data from publicly available sources for each considered countries. That are the 27 European countries, the 4 Western Balkan candidates that are Albania, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia, and finally Turkey. We selected data from 14 different secondary sources that you can see on the slide. These are various sources that consist of interviews with experts in countries with experts, or also questionnaires administered to citizens. But in particular, we used the first 2 data sources that are Media Pluralism Monitor, published by the European University Institute, and the Euromedia Ownership Monitor, published by the University of Salzburg. Then the media capture risk map, our PowerPoint, maybe we can shift to the results.
Move to result. Now Rita will move to the website directly, leaving the slides, the PowerPoint slides, because as we said at the beginning, all this data and the theory part and the methodological part you can read on the website, both of the website from University of Perugia, but also it will be published also on the BridgeGap website.
Yeah, unfortunately, the map doesn't include the UK for obvious reasons. Our map. This is the results of our work, and you can explore the map in 2 ways: through an interactive map, where you can immediately identify which countries face the higher risk of media capture. Of course, the darker the color, the higher risk. Second, through a ranking view. when we consider all dimensions together, we can see directly in the slide that the countries outside the European Union, with Turkey at the top, are the countries with the highest risk of media capture. However, one EU country also stands out in this group, that is Hungary. On the other end of the spectrum, the Nordic countries emerge as the most resilient, showing the lowest levels of risk: Denmark, Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Estonia, and so on.
Let me clarify that this slide shows the overall risk of media capture. Then more particular slides will follow, showing the risk of media, then the risk of political capture, and then the societal risk.
Yeah, the data can be navigating to the menu. You can select different dimensions that I already mentioned, media ecosystem, political system, or societal context. And for each dimension, you can see separately each indicators, composite indicators, such as, for example, political and business influences. This map, this visualization could be useful to identify structural vulnerabilities that can threaten democracy and limit an informed citizenry. If we look at the just to media ecosystem dimension, we can see the country with the highest level of risk is Hungary. Hungary ranks alongside Turkey, and the level of risk also increases for Malta. By contrast, when we look at the political system, political dimension, Turkey remains firmly at the top, and the level of risk increases for North Macedonia. And finally, I show you just some results. You can navigate to the website for other specific indicators. For societal context dimension, Turkey and North Macedonia emerge as the countries with the highest levels of risk. And finally, through the website, you can read country reports for each the countries considered in our work, offering a concise overview of their specific situation. I show you just the first country report, in particular in alphabetical order, Albania. Albania, that is a high level of media capture risk, and you can navigate based for each country, and you can see the data. You can show this. The website shows the table with the value for each dimension compared to the mean, the mean across countries. This is the average media capture risk average across countries, and then you can see briefly the summary of the context of the country considered that could be useful to read to explain our results. This is our work, and this is the media capture risk map that we believe, we hope that it would be useful to identify vulnerabilities in democratic society, in particular in the 32 countries we considered in our analysis. And finally, I believe that it is important to highlight, because our map is useful in particular in comparison with the other existing media monitoring project. We adopted a holistic risk-based approach that tried to put together different aspects, because other projects focus on just one dimension, just one aspect. For example, pluralism, such as Media Pluralism Monitor, or media ownership monitor. Of course, pluralism is essential, but it's not sufficient to check if there is a risk for citizens related to information environment, to the capacity of citizens to access to reliable and independent information. And then we discussed a lot in our research team, also together with other work package 7 partners, the CSD, the KEDGE, and IFFS. And we discussed a lot, and we are convinced that we are consider a more open, a more general context of our society if we would like to verify, to check the different levels of the media capture risk, and finally, if an informed citizen is at risk.
Thanks, Rita. Let me ask you something just to begin the discussion. The comparative dimension of this map is very important, of course. But also, you say that at the end of a presentation, there are the country reports. Can you tell us what is included in the country reports beyond the data that you showed already?
Yeah, we tried to depict a picture of a general overview of the country, considering the media systems, consider the political system, economic system, the societal context, but also the history of each country. Or if each country, for example, if I think to Italy, it is important to consider that our country is a high polarized the political polarization is very high, and then this aspect influences the risk of media capture, influence the media ecosystem.
Thanks, Rita. Now, I will open the floor to questions. Alina, you have the floor.
Okay, hello everybody, and not in the least for showing up in this day before a short holiday, and apologies for the misscheduling of this presentation in this risky day, but glad to see you, and congratulations to the researchers for their great work and for meeting the deadline, which was actually today. another misscheduling. We took a lot of risks.
It's an overlapping, it's a dangerous overlapping.
In the same day. Yes, well, none of this was my idea. I would have really be happy to have this earlier, but it's good to have it now. Okay, it's good to have it now. So just a couple of questions, none of them minor, but just a couple, because I really be eager to hear other people as well. So first, on the definition, since you devoted more than 50% on the definition of this, I was a bit surprised to see that at the end, the definition, it's actually very broad. It's basically media capture is any situation in which particularistic interests override the universalistic interest of informing people, whatever, okay? But in the original capture of media concept, to which this remains very related, this definition.
Something is going wrong. Alina, we don't hear you anymore.
You don't hear me? My microphone is open.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
The last words were lost.
Okay, I'll speak up again. Okay, so I was stating that the definition that you used is very broad. In a way, it struck me as actually broader than the original definition. The original definition is 90% similar. I mean, because it is this particularist versus universalist distinction. But in the same time, years ago, before online media, basically, you can't hear me, right?
The last words again.
See what sound do I have here. I'm sorry, I'm in my office in the best possible place. I had a bad connection earlier. This is supposed to be a good connection.
Try again, Alina.
Try again.
Is this now better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Better. Okay. I changed from Lenovo to an external microphone. Sorry. All right. So definition that you propose is very close to the original definition and needs a bit of follow-up, I think. Okay. So particularist versus universalism, that of course is grounded in how I coined this originally. And we should stress, you already said this, but everybody should understand that the first concept of media capture, I mean, the first concept by me, because I think that other people spoke in different terms long before. 100 years ago, people spoke of some form of media capture. This concept was before.
Alina?
Yes. Again, you left me?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's the connection, it's not the microphone. And then I would rather give the floor to somebody who can be heard.
And anyway, maybe that to say something about this broad definition.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get across, I just would like to understand how political capture by government, the classic definition of media freedom, if that is now included in your definition, like a particular interest among others.
Yeah, we consider political influences among others, but we believe that the concept of media capture is ambiguous. Maybe I'm honest, Alina. We are thinking to replace the concept media capture itself, because maybe in our reconceptualization we included many aspects, and then we believe that the features of the political system, as Alina Mancini said in Comparing Media Systems, how media work and how media are in different countries depends also on the features of the political context.
You got across with that. That's not an issue. The issue really is, what is your definition? Because in the end, the definition is nearly identical to the original definition, except that the original definition proposed the concept as another form of capture to the capture by government. Okay, so this is media capture was just for vested interest, was not so. We could have had capture by government, category 1, and vested interest capture, which was the media capture. Okay, in the same way that the concept of state capture, as originally coined by the World Bank and Kaufman, referred by capture from external actors to the state. Now people use state capture to include the government, which is in fact broader and more imprecise. I am the first to say this concept needs to be redefined and better specified to include social media in particular. But now the concept that you are proposing includes both capture by government and capture by vested actors. So it is broader and more imprecise than the original context. Did this get across or not?
Maybe, Alina, in our reconceptualization, we consider not just news outlets. I agree with you that the influences, political influences, governments or media outlets are included also in the original definition of media capture concept. But at this moment, in this particular period, in the time in which the power of platform is very high, we have consider not just news produced by journalism, but other sources of information. And then we tried to reconceptualize the concept, not just a fixed condition. Our goal is not to identify when we can talk, this is described, this is a media capture case, but more of risk rather than a fixed condition. And then we would like to check when this is a risk. This is not a de facto analysis, because it's very, very hard to, maybe impossible, to measure the level of media capture itself.
There is a question from Manuel now.
Hello, everyone. So thanks a lot for this presentation and for this incredible work. I think, yeah, it's quite valuable from many points of view. So I was curious into how, like, because I'm not like just, yeah, I'm like a political science, so I'm not super familiar with the literature more on the communication side. But I was curious, like, how do you deal with the fact that media concentration seems to be more across platforms these days, and this distinction between traditional and digital media, and how much like does your work and your measures of media concentration deal with this change in the measures, like in how we really understand media concentration, especially in terms of like risk of capture by big techs? And I was curious also in terms of like regulation and different strategies of media outlets. Does that matter for the like the strategies that they're using? Does that matter for the how much the media environment is risking, and how much like how they have reacted and how they've been engaged? They have engaged with different big tech companies, and how much? Yeah, like if you could give us some more intuition into how you deal with these aspects.
Thank you, Manuel. We consider, of course, the media concentration in our work, and I didn't have time to show, to explain better our work and the deliverable. You can see also on the website all variables we included in our work, and then we considered this. The point that you highlight is considered in our analysis, because of course the role and the status of media outlets, such as media concentration, is a big part of our work. Then there is
another question from Alina. What about information capture on social media? As long as you do not argue that veridicity of information is another illusion. Can you say something?
Yeah. We of course in our work we don't consider the true or false information, and we included in our map also data from the available sources that we used related to the influences of platforms, the role of affordances of platforms on news, but also we considered the attempt to mitigate the tentative to from political actors, foreign actors, governments, and other actors to condition, to influence the media, the news environment. There is another question from Linda.
Alina is adding something. You know, we have a big stress in BridgeGap to describe measurable concept as both the jure and de facto, so that we can give actionable advice. The regulation, for instance, is de jure. This allows to answer questions the effectiveness of regulation, such as media freedom act. How can we do this using your framework?
Yeah, Elena, I think that it is important to say that we weight dimensions, indicators, sub-indicators, and variables differently, and we considered, we weighted more the de facto data, because our goal is to depict a picture or to define the level of risk, considering above all the de facto data. I believe that our framework could be useful. Is in line with the European Commission indication. For example, they show in the European Commission website the importance to improve the resilience of our democracies, improving, for example, also media literacy from citizens' level of education, and to considering the level of corruption, of course. And then I think that's the different levels that we included in our map could be useful to identify different vulnerabilities in different countries, because maybe in our second deliverable that focuses on case studies, we are highlighting what are the factors that could limit the risk of media capture, and that it is in line with the results of our map. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Let me add something, Alina. The distinction between the jure and de facto has been considered since the beginning of this project. And I have to add that when you talk about the media field, most of the data are de jure than de facto. For instance, most of the data coming from EU influence are quite all of de jure, much more than de facto. And this is a problem for this kind of research. But when you talk about media, most of the data that you can find are related to de jure more than de facto. For instance, if you consider Freedom House and all the reporters and Sans Frontier and so on, all the data are de jure, not de facto. Are opinions coming from experts, from professionals in the field, but essentially from experts. And all these opinions are de jure, not de facto. And this is a problem for this kind of map, I'm sure.
Yeah,
okay.
But let me explain a little bit. I mean, data serves to answer research questions, right? And an important research question for any policymaker is how to change regulation or policy in order to promote the desirable effect or impact. That is with the European Media Act, and that is with any act. In order to do this, we need a very clear separation between de facto and de jure. So maybe everything is inside now. But me looking as a researcher and asking myself, how can I use this data to ask research questions? For instance, do countries which have certain regulation have higher media capture risk? How can I answer this? You know, the data is not specific enough. You probably know the answer to this because you built it inside. But the data has to have the level of specificity where I can ask these regulations. Do countries which regulate internet, for instance, have higher media capture or lower? How can I know this?
Yeah, Alina, I believe that regulation is a very important point, of course, in order to define policies. But at the same time, I think that it's important also to consider other aspects that could be interesting for the European Commission, because I think that the rule to some rules on platforms, for example, the effect is to limit the circulation of political information that could limit. The goal of the regulators is to improve the circulation of information, increase transparency, for example, the advertising within platforms, but the effect in some cases is the limit of the circulation of political information. Maybe we can go more in depth on this point. I don't know, there is another question.
Yeah, there is another question from Ludovica Privitera, and this is related to...
Okay, just a second, Paolo. Let's push this, however, a little bit, because what you said right now, for instance, you now connected two variables among themselves, a certain regulation and a phenomenon of circulation, right? You said when regulation is this way, this limits the circulation of media, whatever, okay? And the answer to my previous question is that I can very well go and document the regulation and put the regulation in connection with the media risk to answer my research question. But my question to you, since as it looks on the website, I don't know what goes into every indicator. That's not clear to me. My question is there any regulation inside? So if I take regulation from somewhere else, okay, in order to answer my research question, to do a sort of anything bivariate, do I risk having some regulation already within the index, incorporated by you? Do you have any regulation inside in any of these indicators or not?
Yeah.
Just shift the camera.
Sorry, Alina.
I want to answer this question. I don't think that there is direct causality between de facto and de jure. De jure works within de facto conditions. And there are much larger, much broader social contexts and political contexts that can affect the consequences of a particular regulation on how they are performed. So you cannot think of direct causality between one element and the other. The relationship is more complex and ambiguous. This is why the concept is ambiguous, because you cannot talk of immediate and direct causality. But between one element and the other, there are many other factors that can influence the consequences and the output. This is why our work is very, how to be, complex, but also is very pleasant in a way, because we have to consider an enormous number of elements. We cannot consider just more than immediate causality. This is my thought, at least. I don't know what Rita.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's a very complex object of research, and I agree with you. We put together different elements, but we think that the strength of our work is this this plurality of aspects we considered, and causality. We don't talk about direct causality between an aspect and another consequences. This is not our goal.
There is an interesting suggestion by Christian. Could we have a separate tab for the euro, for example, on the data set with legislation access, so that we can add a layer of analysis of risk map? I think it would be very useful.
Yeah.
Last question we can receive at the moment. This is 502.
Yeah, we don't show in the map, but we weight more the data de facto than the euro. But we have this.
Yeah, but Christian is asking something. It's possible to isolate the facto and the euro indicator.
Yes and no, because if we would like to,
this is also the question from Alina. What is the de facto and what are the euro indicators?
We consider both, because we have considered also the limit of data available from other data sources. This is a big point in our work, and then we can separate the factor and the euro. But if we separate them, our result is. I think that is more weak.
Okay, I think that we have to stop here. I would like to thank and all of our audience, and mostly let me thank Alina, because I think that this presentation and the discussion that followed the presentation has been very interesting, very useful, and we will try to answer all the questions that have been placed so far. So, Alina, I don't know if you want to add something, otherwise we can stop here if Lisbon Council agrees with this.
Yeah, I think we should wish everybody a nice weekend, but not before announcing that in May, the next presentation will be chaired by Professor Unger, and it will be the presentation of Felix Anholt, which tries to estimate cross-border volumes of bribing. So see you all in May. We're going to announce this on all channels. Thank you very much to the presenters, chairs, and participants, and enjoy your mini holiday.
Buon primo maggio, as we say.
Buon primo maggio. Arrivederci.
Thank you, Alina.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you all.